Welcome back to Smoke Signals. I'm Matt Montgomery, along with Athletic Director and Head Football Coach Chris Tabor. Fighting Indians get win number 2 on the young season by a score of 49-14 over the Palestine Wildcats. Coach, got to feel good, 2-0. Wow.
Feels a lot better than last year. So,
you know, just like the Pine Tree game, you got off to a fast start. And that was a key to the game.
Well, we talk about it, you know, the two most important drives of the game are the first one of the first half and the first one of the second half, and our kids have done well with that. You know, they're playing well right now. We still got a lot of work to do, but we're heading in the right direction.
The second week in a row that Carter McCown has not had to put the ball in the air a lot. This week, I think 13 attempts, or was it 15?
It was 10 of 14 this week.
10 of 14 this week. Last week about similar. That's nice. I mean, you still got a chance to play all those running backs. Unfortunately, you lost Braylon Parrish in the first play of the game. He's going to be week to week for a little bit. But great running game again.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what you're seeing with Carter right now. You're seeing a lot more composed quarterback. You know, a guy that trusts the offense and trusts the O-line. And when we do throw it, he's got time to get rid of the ball. And you know, the running game, we've talked about it for the last couple of years. Yeah. Running game complements passing game. If you can run the ball, it's going to open up the passing game for you. It's also going to make your quarterback feel a little bit more comfortable because it doesn't put pressure on. They can't pin their ears back and come and get you every time. So we're starting to see that. He's doing a good job of running the offense.
And Carter's running back. He's a running back too. I mean, he ran well.
And that's the whole deal. Is in our offense, the quarterback's got to be a second running back, and he's done it well with that. He's over 100 yards this year rushing, and you know, and you got to account for him. So whenever you have to account for the quarterback and the running back and the passing game, it puts a little bit more stress on the defense.
You know, games are won up front. I mean, you know that as a coach, and the last couple of weeks has proved that. I mean, this is something that we've seen so far in this young season. Is you have an offensive line that you said last week they're working together cohesively. They're really getting off the ball too.
Yeah, and we got some size. So when we do get off the ball, we can actually move the front line. And you know, and it's kind of a unique thing with this team is all these kids are a pretty close-knit group, and we don't have a lot of different little subcultures on the team. Everybody hangs out together. Everybody, you know, does stuff together. So you see that in the game also. They're playing for each other. You know, that they're best friends. They hang out at each other's houses. So that's the nice thing is we do have a true family unity on the team right now, and we're seeing that on Friday nights. They're doing it for each other.
Defensively, what I noticed about the game Friday night was how active your linebackers were. They just kept getting in the gaps and just messing with G. Clark, the Palestine quarterback, who absolutely looked uncomfortable back there because of the activity of Dedrick Tatum and Tevin. They just were all over the place.
Yeah, I thought Coach Wright and his defensive staff had a great game plan this week. You know, we're blessed with speed, so that's what we talked about after the first week against Palestine. Is we kind of let Palestine sit back and throw the ball. And I told them this week, I said, look, utilize your speed. You know, get pressure on the quarterback. You know, make sure we contain the outside, and we saw that. You know, Tevin White had a huge night. He had 11 tackles. Yeah. He had 3 tackles for loss, a fumble, caused fumble. Dedrick Tatum was at the top of the scoring list on the defense. You know, and realistically, if you look at it, they had 2 plays on us that scored points. It really could have been a shutout. You know, Day Thacker's in position to break the ball up on the pass early in the first quarter. If he knocks that down, it's 4th down, and we get a turnover. You know, and then late in the game, you know, a kid gets loose in the 4th quarter against some of our backups, and you know, realistically, we could have had a shutout. And you know, 14 points in this day and age with offenses and the way they are. That's a huge win for us defensively.
Mims had a big game for Palestine rushing the football, second week in a row, but it looked like the defense tackled much better than against Pine Tree.
Yeah, and we talked about it after the game Friday. We kind of needed to see that. We needed to see somebody line up in pro and 3 back and just kind of pound it at us because that's what we're going to see a little bit in district.
It was old school.
It was old school football. You could tell their game plan was to keep it away from us and try to control the game. And I thought our defense did a great job. They had a little bend in them, but they never broke. You know, we had much more 3-and-outs Friday night, or even if they drove the ball, it wasn't a 30, 40-yard drive. It was a 10 to 15-yard drive when we made them punt. So, you know, overall, I was very pleased with the way our defense played.
Special teams looked better too, particularly the kickoff coverage was much better than the previous week. So you look like you worked out some things, but that's what these pre-district games are for, to work out those things. And when you can see improvement like we saw this week, particularly in the kickoff the kickoff team. That's what you want to see here.
Yeah, and that's where we got to get the youngsters to understand the importance of special teams. You know, they play defense, and then they got to kick off, and they got to sprint down the field. And, you know, young kids want to take a break right there. They want to just kind of get down the field and try to make a tackle. Well, we worked at a bunch this past week of getting down the field, getting through the end zone, and making sure we're covering. You know, our goal is to keep them within the 25-yard line, and it lowers the percentages in putting points on the board. And kickoff return, we almost popped the first one off the game. You know, we had some guys like Gerardo Mares that we put in, you know, that he's kind of a role guy for us, but he did a great job. We got our blocks, and we had a chance to hit a seam. So, you know, we're going to keep emphasizing special teams. They're very, very important in this game.
When Braylon Parrish unfortunately got hurt the first play of the game, Vidal Johnson Wudu comes in and has a monster game, 112 yards rushing, I believe, 119 yards rushing, and just a great game for that sophomore. And it's nice to know that you've got that weapon head, if you will, and then, you know, when you can bring in guys that after him, you know, I mean, Keyshawn comes in, he runs hard. I mean, it's nice to have those guys in line.
Yeah, and that's where we're sitting right now. You know, Braylon's day-to-day right now. He just kind of rolled his ankle, so it's not a major injury, but it's going to be something. You know how those running backs are. They're kind of like quarter horses. If they don't feel right, you know, they don't go. So, but Vidal stepped in as a sophomore, did a phenomenal job for us. You know, again, our O-line gave him, you know, running lanes to run. You got, you know, Day Thacker still a threat. You got, you know, like you said, Keyshawn Johnson. You got Jamadrick Taylor. I mean, we got 5 legit running backs. So if one of those main 3 are dinged up or got a nick or a bruise, we got another one to come in, and that's going to be our saving grace this year.
The sudden change element of the game I thought was really effective the other night when you had the turnover. You won the turnover battle, by the way, again, after also against Pine Tree. But the sudden change and then keeping the tempo up, how pleased were you as an offensive coordinator, if you will, with that tempo movement that you guys are getting more comfortable with?
I think right now is the fastest as a football team that I've ever been a part of that we're playing. I think offensively it's a tribute to our coaches that our kids know exactly what to do. I mean, you're seeing substitutions, you're seeing tempo, you're seeing us go, and we're not making a lot of mistakes. I mean, our line's lined up, our kids are getting where they're supposed to be, and it's the fastest we've played, and it's hard on the defense to get lined up. We caught them 3 times the other night with 12 to 13 guys on the field. You know, and that's what we want to do. We don't want them to sub, and if they're going to sub, we want to catch them in those substitutions and get some free yards out of it.
Yeah, I mean, Wudu goes 30 yards. I mean, and it's like the linemen are sprinting up the field. They're at the line of scrimmage. Palcy's not even set. You snap the ball.
Yeah, and that's Coach Palmer and Coach Cordis and Coach Johnson and KJ and all those guys doing what we asked them to do. They coach those kids hard. Those kids know exactly what the expectation is on the offense, and you see it on Friday night. And it's so much nicer than what we were looking at last year. You know, we just kind of got up to the ball. There wasn't a lot of sense of urgency, and you're starting to see that now because our kids are starting to see the benefit of it, and getting our running backs in space when they're not lined up is a lot better than letting them dig their heels in and get after you.
Confidence is such an important part in the high school football game. I mean, particularly after coming off last year's season, and I hate to keep referring to it, but it's something that you can build off of where you came from. And it seems to me like this is a lot more confident team. It's just been 2 games, I know, but it's amazing what winning does for that.
It does, and it's amazing what winning does for the school in general. And we talk about confidence in teenagers. I mean, confidence is huge in teenagers no matter what you're doing. And if kids feel good about themselves, they tend to work harder in the classroom. They tend to, follow the rules a little bit better in the hallways, and it's just a better, feeling around the school in general and the town and everything else. And the kids kind of, like you said, they get a little bit of pride.